I will touch on this real quick. In response to some of the, several of the questions that the board had, I wrote a more clear, thorough explanation of what we were doing and what we were proposing. This management summary is kind of in two sections, and so I'll handle the first one regarding the planned, what we were doing with the streets and all chip sealing projects, as well as Dyer Park. Do I have any questions that I can answer on that?
Just for my own clarification, on your map I see the rest of the loop, but in the verbiage it also mentions still redoing those again. So doing the entire
Correct.
area.
We do need to do that on the existing areas that were done in those areas last year. Paul has said that it was kind of impressed upon him last year to do those areas as cheaply as possible. He did that, but the thing is that if we want those roads to stay in as good a condition as possible, we will need to do that again this year, do those areas again. And it's my understanding in talking with Paul, that will be done in the upgraded chip sealing process, again, to use 9th Street as an example.
My thoughts are that the areas that were done last year, if we have to not do something, those would be the areas I would not do. Because some of those get so little traffic that, I mean, I understand it would help continue to build the base, but I think 1 year of missing it on those roads where there's very, very little traffic would not be it. If we had the funds, I say we do it, but if we get tight, I would like to look at not doing those.
I would agree with that, with the exception of the one piece that comes up the steepest section of the road.
Yeah.
And it will erode much faster if it is not continued.
The back entrance or the park lane.
The back entrance.
I really think that we can come in
I think we can
and do what we're asking.
Have you worked?
I'll bring Vance Brothers in to do their own measurements and come up with numbers.
Have you talked to the road district again, the special road
I spoke
district?
with them, but they haven't gotten back to me. But I think they'll work with us on that.
One item to keep in mind, and I kind of touched on this on this section about the park, is that we need to keep in mind that chip sealing is a lower cost alternative to complete, as opposed to complete replacement of the pavement overlay. And the chip sealing, it will be only as smooth as the pavement underneath of it. And Paul has said that when he goes through on some of the areas in the back of the park, as well as the other areas, that his crews go in and do a lot of prep work, patch potholes, maybe do a little crack sealing, whatever needs to be done to fill major areas before it's actually done. But as far as the back roads and some of the park areas, it will only be as smooth as the pavement underneath of it. They will work to try to get it smoother, but it won't still be perfect. And so we just need to keep that in mind.
That was one of my questions, having driven up 9th Street the other day. Is there any method by which, once you lay the chip and seal down, that you could roll it?
They do that.
You do roll it?
Yes.
Could you use a bigger roller?
Well, with haydite rock, it's so soft, you have to use a special roller.
Oh,
And
because
that
it's kind
haydite rock,
of like,
that's what we're planning on using.
yeah, I mean, the street's kind of, I mean, it looks good and everything, but it's kind of like driving over a rubble strip, you know?
Well, that's the way it'll all end up.
Okay.
I can almost bet money.
I do have another question. We were showing capital equipment fund balance of $255,000, which we brought forward in this document for your consideration. But Paul has already used $111,000 out of that capital improvements fund. Is that no, you're talking about the capital equipment fund.
I
always get those two confused. I'm glad we're dissolving one of them. Okay.
Is there any other questions about
I do have one
Okay.
other, for 9th Street. Is there a reason we're gonna stop at Kirkpatrick and not go all the way to Gulf and do that entire strip? Because when you leave from the Kirkpatrick
It's
down, it's really bad.
Work on it. Well, the only thing I was trying to do was just reseal 9th Street at Kirkpatrick while we did, and then move over to the better streets.
My concern is, I don't know if you've driven it, but if you get down closer to the hill, when you pass the Kirkpatrick, it's in pretty bad shape there. So I don't know what it would take to include that within this scope.
I can look at it and come back to it next time.
Because really, at this point, we're just giving us an estimate. There's really nothing for the board to action upon until you provide us some quotes and so.
I just want to know that you guys are happy with it and not wanting to make changes. I mean, maybe now's the time to make the changes if we
Yeah.
want.
And I think that is the challenge, again, with the 9th Street going down to Gulf. I think that is the same challenge, is that it would only get as smooth as what's underneath of it. And
Well,
then-
9th Street turned out pretty good for being a gravel road underneath it,
Right, right.
so.
But we're hoping to have one more this year, and then we'll come back and ask you for asphalt, and special road district will pay half on that.
I would just be curious to see what the added cost would be to do the entire thing.
I don't know if this is time or place, but, you know, the finance committee did meet, and we had some input to the street program for the year about some additional funding. I don't know, you want to restate that, John?
Yeah. Just the summary is the finance committee met to discuss the possibility of identifying additional funds within the city finances that could be accessed and used for street projects during 2012. That is in response to Alderman Yancey's request that we kind of take a hard look at our finances, where we are on some of our funds, and see if we could identify potentially more money to address specifically Otway Street. And the recommendation is that the finance committee, after taking a look and conferring with Marcella about the capital equipment fund, the recommendation is to move the remaining funds that are in the amount of $255,300 to move that over into the capital improvement fund, and that these funds be used for the reconstruction of Otway Street between Wells Street and Connor Street, and that is approximately $120,000. That does leave the ambulance chassis work of $70,000, and I tried to outline that as clearly as possible as earmarked expenses already, and also the replacement of the EMS cots of $35,000, and then the remaining capital equipment funds, that'd be about $150,000 there. The Otway construction costing estimated at 120 would leave about $30,000 out of the capital equipment funds after we move it over, if the board chooses to do that, to move it to the capital improvement fund.
I just wanted to reiterate, we're not chipping and sealing this. This is actually tearing the road up and fixing that.
Right,
And
replacing
you are
the
going to make
base.
a lot of people in my ward happy by doing that, because I don't think it's realized how much travel, how much traffic goes along there. So I'm real excited about getting this done. It won't be chip and sealed. It'll be fixed hopefully for 7-10 years.
Correct. That'll be tearing it up, putting new road base down, and then putting new asphalt pavement down.
Just like they did on the Dow.
Right. It'll be wonderful. I hope we can do that.
And that was a major concern because the new areas out by the Chamber of Commerce and hot pots and all of that, that street is definitely getting a lot more traffic.
What else did we have earmarked for that fund? Is there anything else that we had?
No.
And from all the information that we looked at, those two items were the only items earmarked for that fund.
And you went back several years, right, Marcy?
Yes.
So there, we can.
So that fund's been sitting there and we haven't been using
Yeah,
it.
they came through your.
And that was one of the considerations, is that this fund had not been utilized. Had probably not been donated, money put into it for the last several years, and also no money has come out for any expenses for capital equipment. And the finance committee kind of were in agreement that we need to use these resources in the most efficiently possible.
And that was also our basic recommendation was to eliminate the need to have both funds, to have one fund that we could work from, a capital improvements fund, whether that be equipment or whether that be infrastructure.
Okay. Any questions from this side of the table for the finance committee?
My question is, I don't think that the sewers and stuff have camera down that street. So are we feeling comfortable that the sewers underneath that street are in good enough shape that we're gonna put a new street on top of
Talking about Otway?
it? Yes, sir.
Yeah. That section from Park Street, is it Park Drive? And
Well, we're talking about from Connor to Wells, correct?
Connor to Wells.
Connor to Wells is an older section than what I first proposed to Park. I was gonna stop there, but we've decided to move on, so. It's not been cambered, I'll put it that way.
That's what I
Because we
was.
really don't know what that one block is.
Just from Connor to,
Connor to Park Shore, or Shore Drive, or whatever that is.
but the rest of it, you feel
From Wells Street to Park, in front of those apartments, those long apartments right there. That's a English water line, and the sewers.
Talking about Spring Drive?
yes, Spring Drive.
Yeah, to there. Now, from there to Otway, from there to Connor,
That one block.
it's over.
He said it's not bad, but this part right here, that block right there is
Well, all I'm saying is, it looks like to me that the sewer runs down the middle of the street. So I sure wouldn't want to put a street there without making sure that the sewer's good. That's my only point.
Would it be advisable to have that section of sewer camera? Can't cost that much to do a block.
Can we have that portion camera to double check it, Paul?
We can see what each type of charge come back and do.
Yeah, I think we should do that.
Before we proceed?
I mean, I think that would be a wise investment.
Very wise.
Good idea.
I have another question, Mayor. Do we want to formally adopt this policy for 2012? Or do something else?
There's a resolution.
Let's bring that, come back to the resolution, wouldn't it combine those?
I think
It is.
it
There
is.
is a
Later in the
resolution.
agenda.
I think Alderman Yancey's question is, do we want to move forward with this particular set of streets? Or
I think it would be better to come back in a contract
I-
proposed for closer to exact dollars.
Right, and apparently we're not going to be using any engineering services to chip and seal our street replacement this year. That's fine with me.
As far as I know, no, I don't think we would.
Okay. That's just more money we don't have to spend.
there's more streets?
Yeah.
Yeah, all of this will be coming back for approving the bids and that kind of thing as it comes forward. We just have a work plan that we know when we give it to the people that are bidding, that these are the streets we're working from and stuff. That was our main objective.
What would be the time frame to start working on the streets?
Time frame, Paul?
On,
Start streets.
Start.
Starting point.
well, depends on who you talk to. If you talk to Vance Brothers, they say that the state's getting ready to tie up a whole bunch of the Haydine rock, and it'll be hard to get. So as quick as I can get our three prices, I'll come back and then we'll get tied up.
So the only change that I would see is just checking to see about extending 9th Street all the way to Gulf. If you're gonna do that, it's at least try to preserve some of that street.
And then a bid for camp.
And bid for camera, the bid for the camera, so I was looking at this as two separate. I was looking at the chip and seal projects, and I was looking at the Otway as its own project.
Well, Camry should be part of the
Oh.
project, obviously.
Right, and that's
Yeah.
one thing I was just gonna say, if it comes back, that getting that done, we can just go ahead and get that done, planning on that being part of this 120,000 and move forward so that we don't have a whole lot of delay, so we can just go ahead and get that done.
Yeah, even if we need some sewer replacement down there, you know, while we've got the street dug up, that's the best time to do it.
Right.
Right.
And it's a lot cheaper because you don't have to dig it twice.
Right, and we'll know more with that when we have a camera.
Okay. Any other questions on the street before we move forward? Okay, seeing none, we'll now move